Hey, this is Corey Miceli sitting here with Julia D. Pompeo. We're in LaGrange, Illinois, right? Do you have
LaGrange,
a name?
Illinois.
Do you have a name for this mad science hut back here?
Working class barbell.
Working class barbell represent. This Matthias, the sexy Viking, Matthias Butterstrom Anderson, holding it down over in Denmark. What time is it over there, Matthias?
Oh, it's 10 minutes to 1 a.m.
Yeah, just getting rolling for the day, baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, let's get right into this. Julia's got a pretty prolific background. If I'm correct, if I'm wrong, and anything that I'm missing, professional powerlifter status.
Yep.
What year did you do that?
Oh, I think that was 2018, 2017.
Gotcha.
2017.
And recently, pro figure, IFBB pro figure, correct?
Pro figure, turned pro in 2019, and then just snagged my Olympia qualification.
That's what's up.
Months ago.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Wow. When did you set the sights on? Give us a background. Did you start out with the ambition of doing both? It just kind of happened. How did that all come together?
It all just kind of happened for me. Really, I kind of started with powerlifting first. I didn't really compete in powerlifting. I used to be a marathon runner and was getting into weightlifting, and that's actually around the time I met my now husband. And we started training out of Jacked Hardcore in Aurora, and I started learning really the fundamentals of lifting and powerlifting. Lifted heavy and really just started to build a physique, and people were like, hey, why don't you do a bodybuilding show? And I was like, okay. Did a bodybuilding show, and I was like, that kind of sucks, actually. And I was like,
was your first show a figure show, or what was your actual first show?
It was a figure show.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Cool. So I've always been in figure. And after that show was over with, I just...
What year are we talking here?
2016.
Gotcha.
Yeah. 2016 was my first show. Then when I was done with that, I kind of was like, well, now what do you do? Hear about all these bodybuilders, kind of get depressed after a show because you're not working towards anything. So I was like,
do more.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to train for a powerlifting meet. I'm going to put on weight anyway, so might as well move some weight. Well,
yeah. What are your best lifts?
So my squat is 485, bench what is that, like 242?
Yeah.
Convert it, and then deadlift is 440. So
awesome.
Squat's always been my...
What, like, if you had a meet, say 2 or 3 months from now, what do you think you could do? If you see, as your strength level changed at all, be more focused in the bodybuilding figure world, or is it pretty much still there? How do you feel?
I feel like this point now where I'm at in my bodybuilding career, I found a good balance between powerlifting and bodybuilding, that I feel like if I were to do a meet, I'd probably hit at least like a 430, 450 squat.
Yeah.
Deadlift is really the only thing I don't do so much of when I'm training for a bodybuilding show. It just takes too much to recover from. Sure. But bench actually is still there. I really haven't been doing too much benching. A few weeks ago, I threw up 225.
Cool.
So,
you hear just old school opinions, I guess you could call it. Powerlifting, bodybuilding can't mix. Makes you too blocky. You lose your muscle quality. How do you respond to that? Especially the one a girl that wants to advance in figure or some type of physique world should not do powerlifting. What's your thought on that?
I think powerlifting is what has made me so successful in bodybuilding. I have heard this, that, and the other. They don't go hand in hand. But I think really what stands me apart from a lot of the competition is the density in my muscle bellies. And that is from powerlifting, lifting heavy. And it's just finding that balance. It's like when you're training for your squat day, you're working on your squats. And then when you're done, what do? You go to your leg press, you go to your leg extensions, you're doing your bodybuilding type movements.
Some people do that.
Yeah, some people have also, a lot of them, the powerlifters that actually stick to their accessories, you can go into bodybuilding right after. Just the one thing that, makes it hard to do both is when you're in that cutting phase in bodybuilding.
For sure.
But
One thing I've noticed over the years is both men and women, the athletes that have that powerlifting base, the muscle seems to like stick to them over the long haul, even when they're not involved in that intensive training. More so, like I don't know, just pick your average. Look at Dorian Yates, for example. Randy lifted heavy. He never really did power lifting. Got out of his bodybuilding career and like he still looks like a fit human being, but like that just that nasty like thick musculature he developed kind of vanished. We're looking at a lot of other athletes that did more powerlifting, even if just purely powerlifting, walked away from the sport, never touched a weight again. They still carry a lot of muscle mass on their body. So I'm sure that
I think it plays into just muscle maturity and your body just responding to needing to hold up to that and just retaining some of that.
You've heard the story of Ernie Franz doing he was the senior nationals and Mr. USA's or something like that, a big time bodybuilding event on the same day. You ever hear about that?
Yeah.
Crazy. Could you imagine as an athlete doing that?
I mean,
if anyone could, I'm sure you could.
Yeah, there have been a couple bodybuilding preps where I'm like, oh, it's gonna be early into my prep. Maybe I'll hop into a meet, and then I kind of get close to the meet, and I just want to be focused on one thing. So, if I'm committing to something, I'm gonna be 100% into that. So I've always kind of fallen out of doing a meet, in the early stages of a prep, just because my head's not even in.
Yeah, it'd be just kind of a bizarre, like self-challenge type thing, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
The evolution of like women's fitness to me is just mind-boggling. And I grew up in Franz culture, and Ernie always told us, he said, "You guys watch. He's the women's bodybuilding, women's fitness, women's powerlifting. It's going to grow, and it's going to eventually be bigger than the men's side of the sport." What do you think about that? This was him talking, 20, 25 years ago.
I mean, I could really see that, and I think a lot of that is like the evolution of social media and glamorizing women's bodybuilding. There's so many different divisions now that it is a little more attainable. Each girl can kind of pick what she wants to look like in the bodybuilding world versus, back in the Ernie Franz area, there's just bodybuilding. And those bodybuilders looks even smaller than the figure girls where I'm at now. Sure. So I think it's really on the rise, where girls are just like, oh, it's not, I have to be this big monstrous thing. It's really pretty. I wear the sparkly suit and okay, I gotta lift weights to look like that, but that's cool,
Yeah, for sure. Well, a lot of our listeners, we're broadcasting on Rap Feed Radio, so some of our listeners are that in tune with the whole fitness world. Just let everybody out there know, like the Mr. and Miss Olympia stage is like the pinnacle for physique sports. Maybe you can elaborate on that. Tell us about the process of actually getting to the point where you qualified for the #1 show in the world.
So it's the #1 show in the world.
By far.
It is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. If you win Mr. Olympia, you are the best in the world. If you are qualify, you are top 30 in the world.
Else,
And to qualify for that, so first you have to turn pro, and that means winning a national level competition. Then you got to get on a pro stage and either win a pro show, the overall, or you can do a number of shows and your placing can earn you points, and they take like the first or top 3 with the most amount of points qualify for the Olympia there. So there are plenty of girls that I've met that have done 6, 7 shows already in the year, just trying to collect as many points as they can, or they've gotten.
It sounds like a grind.
It's a grind, and I was lucky this year. I walked in and won my first show of the season, got my ticket. Now all I have to do is think about the Olympia, and that's hard to do. And I'm fortunate that everything I've done has led me here.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then for our listeners that don't really know what a figure contest entails, talk us like through like the final 2 or 3 days leading up to it, and then the day of the contest. What is the procedure you go through?
Yeah, so really the week before, you call that peak week, and really that's the most exciting time in your prep for a bodybuilding show, but it's also kind of the hardest time. You're really few days leading up, you're depleting your body. You're kind of just pulling everything out, pulling out your water, just really depleting. And then a couple days leading into it, you kind of, everybody's a little different, but for me, I'm adding in more carbs as we go along. So then come showtime, everything's just full. You kind of pull it out and then you give your body back everything you just pulled away, and then it just pops into place.
There's a at any physique show. There's a what's called the morning show and the night show. You kind of go into how that works a little bit.
Yeah. So the morning show is really probably the most intense, important part of the overall competition. And it starts off, you walk out, you do a little individual routine. So that's the first time the judges get to see you just by yourself. And then they pull out a group of people, usually about somewhere between 5 to 7 people. It depends on how many are in your division competing, but they'll pull out the first 5, just by alphabetical order or whatever, line you up, and then you have your mandatory poses. So the judges will look
How many
at
of
you.
those are there?
For a figure, there's only 4.
Cool. Okay. Oh, yeah.
And
Front, side,
front, side, side. They turn you around, boot you off stage, look at the next group, and then they bring everybody else back once they've looked at all those groups, and then they start to call you out. And
let's go into those mandatory poses a little bit, because it sounds real simple, front, side, back. Like there's so much detail and so much practice and so much time that goes in, like to fine tuning and polishing those poses. Like how you adapt quickly to that, or what was your learning curve like on how to really hit those poses? I know that's such an art form. It's like way more to it than I can even articulate. You haven't gone through it.
Yeah, it is the hardest part for me. And in my division, we're wearing 5-inch heels while we're doing it. So you take a girl out of your trains in this garage and in sneakers all day, hand her a pair of heels and say, look pretty now. And it's taken years. I was never a good poser, like right off the bat. I mean, I work with a posing coach at least once a week. And I mean, those are tough when your front pose doesn't look too hard, but you're literally flexing everything, squeezing everything.
And relaxed and smiling.
Relax and smiling and make it look like you're not even breathing. It's a cardio session in itself to practice here.
You practice your posing year round. I'm assuming it gets more intense as the competition nears, but
yeah.
What's your posing practice routine like in general?
Usually it's right after I finish lifting, just to kind of condition myself to hold those poses. My muscles are already kind of tired from lifting. So that's when I want to like practice it, because you also, if you have a judge that really wants to look at you and you've got to hold that for a long time, you have to train yourself, to be able to hold it. So yeah, usually every day, at least like 20 minutes, throw on my heels.
How many minutes?
20.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
A little bit every day, just to walk around in them, feel comfortable, just make it a natural thing. That's the hardest thing for me, is just making it natural. Some girls just naturally just love to present themselves. It's not quite me.
Gotcha.
So just the more you do it, the more normal it feels to go out and
normal.
Yeah.
Right. Over the last year, your body weight fluctuation, what do you see as an athlete?
So
what's your body weight right now, for example?
Right now, I'm about 155.
On stage, would probably be.
On stage, I was like 145. So I'm actually not sitting too much higher than where I was, but I started my prep in March and I was 175 right before I started my cut. So then I lost about 30 pounds in that 5 months. And then now, since I have another show at the end of the year, it's a really interesting.
Mid-December, is that what it is?
Yeah, like right before Christmas. It's a really interesting time, because I can't go back to my body's pretty comfortable at like 170. I compete in powerlifting the 165 So I have to still kind of stay within that 10-pound range of stage weight so that I just don't completely like crash and burn come the end of the year, just dieting all year.
Rolling back the clock, like 2016, whenever you really got into it. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
What was your body weight when you first started?
I think I was just hitting about 160 then.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I remember stepping on the scale and crying. It was like, and then I was, you know, everybody then was like, you have to be that heavy. And I was like, oh,
Well, like,
okay.
a lot of girls out there hear that weight number, they get like shocked by it. But I know, just being in the industry as long as I have, women are getting less and less intimidated with the scale says and having a much better understanding for like their overall health, quality of their muscle, that sort of thing.
Right. Because when I was at 175, I was like, that's cool. I mean, I feel good. I'm moving weight better than ever. My first time on stage, I was maybe 130 pounds. And now every year that I compete, I'm like, I hope I'm heavier than the year before, because that just means more muscle. Right. And so, it'd be cool if I get on stage at the Olympia and I'm 150 pounds the heaviest I've ever been.
For sure. When you're a marathon athlete, remember what your body weight was when competing in a marathon?
Oh, around like 120, 125. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How do you feel now compared to like your peak marathon shape versus like right now? I would say like you call it peak off season shape. I don't even know, not even off season.
Yeah.
Whatever, just peak, strength and figure conditioning. What's your general energy like? Can you compare it somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, well, actually, probably back in my marathon running days. I mean, I was early 20s, so I mean, I'd get up and go for a 20-mile run and feel pretty great the rest of the day. There's been some wear and tear, doing the powerlifting, but I would never go back to running. I think my conditioning, though, I could definitely go out and run 10 miles right now if I needed. Yeah, I don't want to, but I think though, as you kind of
your body's pretty adaptive, obviously.
Yeah, it's kind of learned how to, get through it. But I mean, when I'm speaking for a powerlifting meet, I feel pretty terrible most of the time. I mean, I mean, you're excited, but physically you get out of bed and you're like, oh, wow, yeah.
Hey, Matthias had a question. What your body weight in pounds, Matthias? Your body weight currently is like 270 pounds, correct?
Yeah, maybe 268, but I'm gaining weight. I've gained like 16 kilo, like, I don't know, 35 pounds over the summer. And
Matthias this question was like how to bring his body weight up to like the 300-pound mark. What kind of tips do you have for him?
I mean,
not knowing any much about his back. Pretty tall. What are you like? About 6?
Yeah, I'm 6'3",
or so.
It's because Corey has been telling me that for the past 6 months that the best way for me to get a six-pack is just gain like 20, 30 pounds.
My advice to Matthias, especially that big frame, there's no substitute for adding muscle tissue. If you want to be lean, you want to see muscle, you better have some muscle.
Right. Yeah. But I mean,
but I'm 270 pounds, so it's not like I don't have muscle, Corey. It's like
I mean, the biggest thing is just, I think what this whole journey of going from marathons to powerlifting and bodybuilding has just been food. I think, like, really, when I explain to people my off season, so now the only thing that changes is my diet, and you got to eat to grow. So it's
you have a calorie marker that you try to hit or anything like that?
Yeah. So
so for you, your highest calorie intake, what's that?
Right now my highest calorie intake is about 2,300.
Okay.
Which actually really isn't that bad. I think on a low carb, I carb cycle right now, lower days, about 1,900. Probably January and February when I was still powerlifting, I was close to about 3,000. Yeah. And eating about 180 to 200 grams of protein a day, which was, that's the biggest thing. It's just the consistency with your diet, and that's how you're your body's just always working, always using something, it's
Right.
going to respond to that.
But Tias, do you count your calories or measure your calories in any sort of way, or just
Oh, I
eat to
haven't
your
done
full?
that in a like. It's hard to keep the interest up in with doing that when you have the injuries I've been suffering with, you know. And I mean, I've had my thoracic spine pull out and away from my lumbar spine and then get back into place in 3 different workouts. So I mean, I've been dealing with quite a bit, like probably several disc issues and shoulder rants and nerve impingement in my knee and stuff like that. So it's been a few years of ups and downs. So it is that desire, that will to count the calories and do everything perfectly is just gone out the window at some point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tedious to track everything. I mean, I literally I have a MyFitnessPal account and it's linked to my coach's website, so he sees everything I'm eating, and just the way that it's made everything easier is that I pretty much just do the same thing every day, so I can just copy and paste,
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
end of the week, just figure out what I want to eat throughout the week, and then that's what I'm eating. And
I noticed you got a supplement sponsor.
yep, so Muscle Meds
What
and
what do you recommend for muscle meds? Is something you use like on the daily, cycle in and out? How do you structure that supplementation?
yeah, so Muscle Meds is actually just a really great. They're mostly a protein company, and they were actually one of the first protein powders I've ever bought. So I was really excited when they reached out to me. And really, what I like is their protein is a beef-based isolate instead of a whey. So I mean, it doesn't. Everybody thinks it tastes like a steak. It doesn't. It tastes like your regular, but it has 3 times the amount of creatine than a piece of steak. Yeah. Double the amount of amino acids in each serving versus a traditional way, and then it doesn't have the lactose, so you're not going to get your protein parts. You're gonna
You don't want it then,
utilize it.
He loves his protein farts. I don't think you can convince him to try the beef.
I mean, I have some nasty gas sometimes, but I've never had protein fast.
So yeah, I'm always using their protein, but they also have a really great product called Stemtropin, and it's a growth hormone activator. And I take that before bed, and really it just, activates your growth hormones, but it also helps you sleep better at night, so that sleeping better at night, you're recovering better overnight, your body's repairing itself so that you actually are continuing to keep building. So yeah, it's a really great product.
Yeah.
And then also just a lot of their meal replacement stuff. Like they got a meal replacement if you want a mass gainer, you want a lean meal replacement. That's a meal I don't have to think about.
Right. Got like the supplement evolution is pretty radical too. You look back at I jumped at high school like the 80s and early 90s. Supplements were pretty crude. You had some awful powdered cardboard tasting protein, a couple of amino acid tablets, and all of a sudden the 90s, everything jumped on the scene. Amphetamine supplements. You literally go to GNC and buy a whole multitude of steroids, and it was a real wild time.
I know what it's high.
A lot of time. It was freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And then but now I've noticed the quality and the purity, and actually the taste of the supplements is what's really changed over the last decade or so. I would say.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now they have any flavor you can think of, like Muscle Meds. They came out with a Rocket Pop over the summer, and that doesn't even taste like a protein shake. Your protein shake's normally a little thicker. This Rocket Pop tasted like a popsicle, and it was kind of thinner consistency. So, and it's cool because you get excited to drink a protein shake now.
Tias, have you ever used a protein supplement? Really?
I mean, there was a time where I had 4 or 5 protein shakes a day, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got a 6-pack eventually.
But I just don't I would mostly utilize the shakes when I was really trying to ramp my calories up. It was a hard time getting enough food in. I just make an extra protein shake and just throw half the kitchen in with it just to crank those calories up.
Right. I know there's the one that Muscle Meds makes, this lean meal. Because right now my high carb days, sometimes it's just hard to get all that food in, and that meal replacement has 40 grams of carbs and 40 grams of protein in it. So that easily just replaces a meal for me. Just slam it down. So I think you don't have to cook. Like,
yeah. And just randomly seeing some of your training videos over the years, I noticed you do incorporate a lot of partial movements, whether it's like rack pulls, like some partial like pressing type movements, that sort of thing. Like, you still do that type of training, or?
Yeah, I'm still utilizing all of that because
I think that's it's like a real weapon people can use. I don't think people use often enough. I'll turn over, like, talk side, any kind of partial movement you use. Tell us about it.
I mean, really anything. I still do board presses, band work, chain work, because I feel like it works all of those little stabilizer muscles. You want to build up you want to be as strong as you can be, whether it's for 10 reps or 1 rep. So manipulating those different variables to get stronger in each part of your lift is, the best way to go about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know, like, when I jumped back into powerlifting when I turned 40, I always maintained a pretty good base for my squat and my deadlift. I used a lot of partial deadlifts in that period of time when I really wasn't competing.
Yeah.
I had some like wicked like torn like pec injuries. Like Barzine says, I have the world record for half a pec bench press, whatever that means. But the way I approached it, doing full range bench presses was like super high risk. It was like really, really not a safe position for me. Obviously, when you compete, you have to do it. So I would do a lot of partial training, a lot of isometric training, and the weights I would handle doing those would, like, the best I ever hit was like a 600-pound single ply. But I figured if I could handle it like 800 pounds on an isometric, if I could do board press in 750, there'd be some kind of spillover effect that would like saturate the strength in that weaker area also. So it kind of like helped me cheat code way up to like I don't know, in today's powerlifting, it's not really even respectable, but enough of a bench to give me a decent total. So that's the way I used partials was like.
I trained some people in powerlifting, some newer people. And I actually have this client, she's about to turn 70, and in her retirement, she decided she wanted to learn powerlift. And she actually had a bicep tendon strain. So she did a meet, and then shortly after hurt her bicep tendon, but she still wanted to bench. So we've been doing a lot of board presses because that short range of motion, she was still able to train and actually still bench heavier than what she could do.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting back into it. She's getting into another meet, and she's back down to her chest, and it's like that muscle memory, and she didn't lose any strength. She's still been training it, and now she can fully.
Right. Like, let's say bench, for example, you might not be full range, but everything, your grip, your triceps, your delts, your upper back, you're still handling the weight. There's still some kind of carryover benefit from that, even though it's not a full range of movement. You're still getting a huge percentage of the benefit, even with like 50% of the range of movement, I would say.
Yeah. And even with like squatting, I mean, it's not a partial movement, but like using the chains and heavy bands, that really just trained my central nervous system of everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, before I even hit my first 400 squat, I knew I could hit a 400-pound squat, but once I got on my back, I was like, no way, and then it's like, okay, well, let's load up 400 in chains. That way it's going to drop off when you hit the hole. You're going to be a little bit more confident.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also just another factor. It's just getting your body kind of used to it.
Sure. Right. Well, like, talk about central nervous system training. What does that mean to you?
For me, it's just, I mean, I'm a nervous lifter. So I did a lot of work too, like building up my squats, load 500 on the bar, stand up and hold that for 30 seconds. It's just because then my body would just remember, like, oh, we know what this feels like. This isn't something new.
Right.
So someday when I do attempt that 500, I'm not going to stand up and be like, oh, I'm going to stand up and be like, okay.
You familiar with the strength legend, Anthony Clark? You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came into a sports festival we were organizing years ago before he passed away, obviously. And that's a big part of his training was extreme isometric training. He would try to go like 150 or 200 pounds over his target lift and shoot for a 60-second hold. It was like part of his like training routine that he consistently did.
Yeah.
So obviously it was effective.
And if you can hold it, you know you can control it.
Yep.
So
I noticed there's like a research, like I don't know if you had any research, but people are starting to discover like the benefit of that isometric training. So I think for bodybuilding it has its role also, just because you can safely handle bigger weights, it's bigger, more stimuli for the muscle, probably going to grow more. So
yeah, and
you might not get the best pump from it, might not look that exciting, but it's definitely going to train your system in a
right.
It's going to lighten up.
And like a lot of bodybuilders, I don't think they really have the patience for what powerlifting is. I mean, I remember training in a powerlifting gym for the first time. It was like, it's squat day. You do your set, and then 20 minutes later is
you're up.
And it's like, oh my God, I've been here for 3 hours, and like, what the hell is this? But it's what I had to do. Like, every bodybuilder wants to get stronger, but they want to get stronger in that 10 to 20 rep range. And it's sad to see that they don't want to go into training for that 1 rep max as much anymore. I don't know exactly what has shifted, because I mean, in the early era of bodybuilding, you see, Arnold and Franco Colombo and everything, they were squat, benching, and deadlifting. And
I think maybe just chasing the pump, there's just that gratifying feeling of like,
right, yeah, you don't.
Yeah, I think also it's because like when you get to that 90% rep range, like it just gets hard mentally,
Yeah.
So rather do like instead of 5, 6, 7 reps.
About that. Everybody wants to be a bodybuilder.
But yeah,
no one wants to lift that heavy ass weight.
I remember last year.
What difference is it really? You do a 1 rep max or say a 5 or 6 rep max. What's the difference really? Like the end outcome, how much different is it really gonna be different muscle wise?
I think there is a big difference, because here's what I'd say the difference is. The initial setup, if you look at a lot of like lifters that aren't power lifters, whatever they can deadlift, they can do for 3 to 6 reps. Add 10 pounds or 20 pounds to the bar, boom, they get stuck, not even able to do 1 rep. So in a way, the reps 2, 3, 4, I'll say, are easier than that first rep. The setup, getting in position, whatever the case is, on a squat, whether you're walking it out or even if you're using a monolift, once you've done that first rep, your body's already in position, it's already stabilized. So there's something, your body has to like grab onto that weight for that first rep in a totally different way.
That kind of also, but that kind of also means you are set in place to just keep banging that muscle. If you're trying to build more muscle, don't you want to kind of be in place and stable? I mean, that's why a lot of bodybuilders are using a lot of machine work,
Yeah, because they're trying to just isolate that one specific.
And then really beat it to shit. And I mean, as far as what I've read, like the white muscle cells, they generate like the most force at like up to 85% of your 1 rep max. So you don't actually need to go beyond that to really push those muscle fibers. And also, as you said, with the deadlift, well, yeah, you started from a dead stop, so the first rep is going to be hard. Then you get the eccentric and you go into rep 2, and that's oftentimes easier. So if you're trying to build muscle, in my opinion, you kind of have to do multiple reps on deadlift to really get some work on those muscles.
Yeah, I don't think a bodybuilder can exclusively survive on doing singles.
No.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at our bodybuilding fans out there. I'd say the best example would be Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler. Ronnie Coleman did a lot of heavy powerlifting. He was a powerlifter before he was a bodybuilder. He was doing like heavy squats and heavy deadlifts, very close to competition time. They're both, all-time greats, but Ronnie had a little bit of a different look on stage. I'd say a lot of it is the fact that you're not going to fake that heavy lift. He was, squatting 800 plus, deadlifting 800 plus, and like especially when they posed in the back, there was just a difference in like that posterior chain that Ronnie had that Jay just didn't quite have. That was like the biggest difference in their training. Ronnie did like a lot of like powerlifting-esque barbell training. Jay didn't. So just one example.
Yeah. And I mean, really, so I competed last year, I stepped off stage end of July.
Oh, this is part 2 of the Corey Miceli show of Julia D. Pompeo. Am I saying the name right?
Yes.
This looks confusing when I see it written down. Matthias Barksam Anderson, the sexy Viking over in Denmark. Part 2, kicking into gear. We're just talking about just granular details about rep ranges for bodybuilders to use, etc. Let's flip the script. How about rep ranges for powerlifters?
You know, and
I think, in my opinion, if you can do 1 rep, it counts. Move on to the next 1 rep.
yeah, essentially. I mean, I do see though a lot of powerlifters though that could benefit from training some reps here and there too.
For sure.
And hey, that's even going to help you. I've done powerlifting meets that are 12 hours long because they're, and you by the time you get to the deadlift, you're just gassed out and kind of need that endurance too to just keep going and finishing out one of those longer meets.
Well, that'd be a good time for me to plug my supplement. CNS Activator. You ever used it or
No.
seen it? Are you familiar with it?
No.
Damn it, I got to bring you some.
Yeah.
I'll just drop some in the mail or drop it off or something. Because my background, I was just, if not one of the strongest football players ever back in the 90s. As a football player, squatting 900 plus, repping 500-pound bench presses, cleaning in the 400s, etc. I had a good strength base. Maintained that. I had a couple different sports performance businesses and things that took up a lot of time. I always told myself when I turned 40, I was going to jump back into powerlifting. Notice that my strength came back really quickly. What you just said, some of those longer, more grueling meets, I just crashed. I just would not have it what it took to finish. And I attribute it more to what I was fueling myself with than just the style of training I was using.
Yeah.
So that's why I came up with this activator formula where it's like a super high dose electrolyte panel with low potassium in it. So your body, when you need it on demand, your body uploads those other electrolytes a lot faster. It's got a bunch of different vitamins and minerals, B complex, and a dose of sugar that absolutely does help for that. Whether you're a bodybuilder or powerlifter, I've got some endurance cyclists that use it. It just helps reboot that nervous system. And it's got a high dose of magnesium citrate in it, which is a natural bronchodilator also. That works wonders. So I kind of forget to plug it. I'm going to get better at that because we're going to do a real big push in that product. I want you guys to just try it and tell me what you think.
Yeah.
So we'll bring that in. But anyway, fueling your body has a lot to do with your conditioning also, obviously.
Right.
I think you mentioned you see a lot of powerlifters that by appearance could benefit from having better levels of conditioning. I think that the culture has changed a lot over the years. If you look back, 20, 30 years ago, there was a lot of powerlifters that were carrying a lot of weight that probably didn't really need to.
Yeah.
It was more like, you're ready for a meet when it's hard to tie your shoes. Well, there might be some truth to that to a point, but at some point, it's going to, carrying extra weight and having a low cardiovascular output is going to have a negative effect too. So
right. I mean, yeah, everybody's like, well, mass moves mass. Well, that's true, but you're going to fall apart after you. What's the point?
And they're I was kind of rambling off, changing the subject a little bit. I'll use my dad as an example. He's a guy that grew up, never was in a weight room his entire life. Fitness, why would you do that? Blah, blah, blah. The guy was always he was a construction worker, a trapper. He just was always outdoors doing stuff. We kind of tricked him into the weight room one day. I think he was in his 60s at the time. He was at 135 pounds on the bench. When someone's never lifted weights, it's usually not that easy to do.
Right.
We just grabbed it with the most awkward form in the world and started throwing it up and down. He's like, see, you guys are wasting your time. I can already do this. Threw it back.
Yeah.
So point being, I think there's something to be said for just a lot of physical output in areas outside of the gym, whether it's some kind of combat sport or heavy construction work or just some kind of other activity that test your limit, test your threshold of physical capacity. So I see a lot of people newbies that jump into a weight room that don't have a very physical background would probably be better off incorporating some kind of real active dynamic training into what they're doing as well, especially to get their base built. What are your thoughts? Even you as a might not think being a marathon athlete would carry over and help in the weight room. But I disagree because granted the two don't marry well, but having that experience of pushing yourself and having that much physical exertion certainly builds some kind of base or some kind of psychological edge.
Yeah, I mean, when I was training for marathons, I was told actually by my dad, who doesn't run so much anymore, but he was like, you need to start lifting weights or you're going to hurt yourself. And, you know, then I started getting into bodybuilding, and when you get a little denser, you're not as fast and it's a little bit, you know, harder. But yeah, it trained my stability, endurance even more. If you're running hills, you gotta build your hamstrings.
Pain threshold is a big part of any successful athletic like competition too.
Yeah.
Like high performance is fucking painful.
Right.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
So that's I think a big, like a lot of people coming into the game may not have a big enough appreciation for pushing through, understanding what's good pain or bad pain. Really, most beginners, it's all good pain. You got to learn to push and like embrace, internalize that pain, understand that breaking through these barriers is what's going to lead to like bigger accomplishments.
Exactly. I know some of the people I train and have them doing lateral raises, and they're like, I feel like I'm getting weak, and I'm like, good, keep going. And like they don't and it's a hard thing to teach people, is just like that uncomfortableness is what you need right now. To get stronger. Like people don't really understand what it, you know, means to get uncomfortable during your workout. They just keep sticking with the same weight.
It's like some reporter asked Muhammad Ali back in the day how many sit-ups he does. And I don't know. I don't start counting until it really starts hurting.
Yeah.
You know, so just that mindset is like what separates people like you and people that go to the gym 5 years straight don't look much different after 5 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fucking ridiculous.
Go ahead, Matthias.
Yeah, that's fucking ridiculous to train for 5 years and still look like you've never trained before, you know?
Well, it's pretty common.
It is common. It is common. Like, it's fucked up, you know? It is very common.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to touch on, anyone we have as a guest, Julia, is a theme we like to discuss is overcoming everything. Is there anything in your life outside of the gym that you've had to like really dig deep to overcome? Any kind of struggles, challenges, be it personal, family, mental, physical, whatever the case is, that kind of help mold you?
Yeah, I mean, my whole fitness life journey, whatever, started from, you know, right in high school. I dealt with an eating disorder that still kind of, you know, comes into play here and there.
Yeah, share what you're comfortable sharing, because I've had a few clients over the years, and I know it's like pretty widespread.
Yeah, anxiety, depression, you know, dealt with a lot of that really hit me in high school, and I fell in love with working out because go an hour in the gym or you go for an hour run, that's the only thing you can do right then and there. It doesn't matter. I'm anxious, whatever, about X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm in the gym, and that's got to wait for the next hour or two while I'm here. And in high school, like my family moved right when I got out of junior high and started high school, and I went to a high school with, you know, 2,000 kids in it, quiet. I wasn't an outgoing person as it was to begin with. So I was, as soon as I got into high school, everything just was, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Sure. I wanted to look good. I wanted to fit in. I didn't want people to be like, oh, she's fat. Oh, you know.
Right.
So I became hyper fixated on everything I ate, and it really just, worst time was in high school. I 800 calories a day, run 2-3 hours a day. I was on the track team. I'd come home from track practice. I'd run another 6 miles. For sure. And it eventually all just kind of weighed down on me. Thrown in the hospital a couple times.
Was there a breaking point where you said, like, I'm going to beat this? Or like, what was the catalyst that helped you turn the corner and not let it beat you?
I think it was really when I finally just got out of high school and it was time to figure out who I wanted to be. And I still didn't know. But I just knew the one thing that got me out of bed in the morning was the gym or working out of some aspect.
Sure.
So I had with my running, that was just, it was something I just knew how to do. Put one foot in front of the other. That's why I fell to that first. It gave me some sort of self gratification. I've always been hard on myself. It's still to this day, I never really felt worthy of something. I'm going to the Olympia and I'm like, how the hell am I going to the Olympia right now? Like, but at least when I would go out for a run and I'd run a mile and I shaved 2 seconds off my mile time, it was like, you did something.
Right.
You got that high. And then when I finally started lifting weights, it was like, oh, I could curl this 15-pound. A month later, I could curl this 20-pound. It's so tangible.
Right.
And then you take a picture of yourself and you look at a picture of yourself a year ago and you see like you did that and only you could have done that for yourself. Weightlifting saved me from my eating disorder. I, like what I said earlier, when I was getting ready for my first meet and I was 160 pounds and I cried about it, but that 160 pounds got me to lift, I don't know, I think I deadlifted like 300 something pounds, you know, back then, but I had to do that in order to feel my best to lift that much at that time.
Oh yeah.
And so it taught me actually to just accept myself. As long as I'm performing well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Like you mentioned, you actually got to the point where you had to be hospitalized. I'm assuming there's like malnutrition, dehydration, like what?
Yeah, I drove myself to the hospital one day. I went to college for a year and a half. I was actually on a full ride Army ROTC scholarship. And it was when I went away to college, again, a lot of this was just a lot of coming of age things.
For sure.
But I just knew I was doing something I didn't want to do. But at the same time, my parents were so proud of me. You're going to be an Army officer when you graduate. You've got a full ride to college. Everything's lined up for you.
Right.
But I wasn't happy. Army life is not what I wanted. I just kind of fell into it. And then I started partying a little bit in college, getting in trouble in ROTC. And then, you know, I've always been wanting to please my parents. I was always a good kid. I never got in trouble. And I started to kind of get into trouble, but nothing crazy, mostly just with the Army, like failing a drug test or whatever. And the Army was just like, we're going to pull your scholarship away. My parents were just pissed at me, being good parents that they were. And I came home on winter break and I was just like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm messing up my life that I thought I was supposed to just post right through life and everything. My parents were mad at me. I didn't know what was going on. I went to a doctor's appointment and something, I don't even remember. The doctor was just, and I was just like, I don't give a fuck about anything anymore. And, you know, and then I was just like, I'm fucking depressed. And doctor's appointment was over with. And that was at the hospital, and they had a mental health hospital. I got in my car and I was just like, I think I'm just going to go home and die.
I can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people in this game can relate. And a lot of people listening.
And, you know, as I look back on it, I'm like, really, it wasn't that bad. But I was like, I'm going to go home and I'm just going to end it because I'm just screwing up. Everything's right in place for me and I don't want to do any of it.
You're down in a hole.
But I was lucky enough to be right there at the hospital, and I don't know, something just came into me to pull in, and I talked to the people there because I was like, maybe some counseling or something, and they're like, we got to keep you. And I remember just sitting in that room, and they kept me there, and then my parents come in, And my parents were pissed. They were like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And everything, yeah, kind of fell into place. In high school, my parents did send me in to some outpatient programs to deal with my eating disorder because they started noticing a lot of things I was doing around the house. Laxatives would go missing.
I don't know if you were telling me my mate is good at being bipolar.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is just identifying shit can get fucked up sometimes and like not letting it get the best of you. So I know so many people deal with those things. They feel ashamed to talk about it, or it's an awkward thing to talk about. But thanks for sharing, because you never know just how hearing that can like strike somebody and let them know you're not alone. Because a lot of times the feeling you're describing, you're like, fuck this, I'm just about done. It's like a terrifying, like lonely, like shit place to be. And it can be overcome.
Yeah, that was really it. I mean, I just felt so alone in high school, just being a really introverted kid, and wanting so bad though for people to just accept me and caring about what other people thought of me, that I let that almost kill me. And as you get older and just experience things, you realize you don't care so much about those kinds of things anymore.
Or you can embrace yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Matthias got a pretty, if you don't mind sharing, Matthias, I know there's a period of, everybody's story is unique, but I remember you sharing a couple times with me, you've been like incredibly bullied and like picked on, and you got to a point where you did something about it. You did some like martial arts and self-defense training and that sort of thing. But rather than me try to tell your story, can you share that with Julia real quick?
Yeah, well, I mean, I got bullied since I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I didn't so much decide to do anything about it. I just had that drive to improve myself, and get stronger. And I saw an ad when I was like 11 years old for a karate club I could join, and I went and joined it right before I got 12, became 12 years old, and I mean, it was just my nature, to fight and to do sports and lift weights, and inadvertently I just ended up, I don't know, building some balls, growing some hair on my chest, and eventually I just learned that the importance of getting stronger, and having some discipline and dignity and self-respect,
I would say, look, probably looking back on it, you can comment what your experience was, but it's having some encouraging words from someone else, man. I know that's like a personal responsibility I'd take on if I see someone and I just have a sense they're like something's got them, they're down, they're going through some shit. I do my best to try to encourage them and try to like get them to look at their perspective just a little bit different without being pushy. So you going into that class, having a teacher, sensei, whatever the case is, that just gives you some encouragement and like takes the time to actually like learn about you and help you with something.
Oh no!
And help turn inward too, so you start seeing yourself in a different light.
It wasn't really like a mentoring thing in that dojo. It was more like just do this, do that, and only use it for self-defense. I mean, I've seen some videos about American dojos teaching them it's okay, it's hard, it's okay to cry, but you have to push through. Now try again. Oh yeah, you succeeded. Oh, you're so much better now. We didn't do that in Denmark. Not in Belarus.
Yeah.
Well, something helped. Like, so what helped you improve your confidence? Generally, help you feel better. Just seeing yourself make progress, and just gaining confidence.
Yeah, becoming stronger. Doing things that I like to do and evolving. While the other people were like so busy having friends, and being such losers. I was busy actually developing myself. And just making something of myself.
Yeah, just getting older and figuring it out.
Yeah.
Self out, like.
Yeah, so I just learned to be by myself and to work on improving whatever I wanted to improve, and the other people, I guess they were getting together and having fun and wasting their times being idiots,
So you work with clientele remote, or is it all in person?
All in person. Well, there's some people that I'll like write workout programs for. If somebody's getting ready for a meet, I'll kind of write them a program, but I like to just build everything.
Gotcha.
In person.
So if anyone in the Chicago area wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
Follow me on Instagram, jchamp29 IFBB Pro. That'd be the best way to get a hold of me.
JChamp
Facebook.
29 IFBB Pro.
Yes.
JChamp 29 IFBB Pro on Instagram. Do you have like a concrete goal set for this first Olympia that you're doing, or what's your outlook going into it? How do you structure like the mindset of what you want to achieve at this first run?
A lot of it, my biggest goal is my mindset. Like I kind of talked about, just feeling like worthy. I mean, I have spent so much time comparing myself to other people and not really reflecting on everything I've done. So giving myself a little bit of credit for building what I've built in a garage.
Yeah.
First of all, and just embracing the fact that I'm going to be with the best athletes in the world in this sport.
I would encourage you, just as a friend, take a step back and tell yourself you're going to the Olympia. I mean, that is just such a rare, monumental achievement in of itself. I'm sure you have aspirations of doing something within that stage.
Right.
Getting there is just freaking huge. It's like, it might not feel good to you because it feels like it's the next step. You got to advance towards it, but man, you've accomplished a lot. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And, just soaking it all in and just appreciating the fact that this has been my destiny to get there. I've met so many people that just have been in the professional league for a couple of years, and they're like, I just want to get to that stage one time before I retire from this sport. And here I am in the early stages of my pro career.
Yeah.
I got it. So I'm meant to be there. And that's just reminding myself of that. And then, really, I want to make that top 10. I feel like that would be the ultimate goal. I don't want to put anything in my head of if placement even mattering, but top 10 would be the most ideal because there's going to be about 35, 40 girls that'll qualify. After prejudging, only the top 10 in that prejudging get to go on to the evening portion. So I've got a lot of family and friends coming out to Vegas, so I'd like for them to see me in that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. Hey, why don't we do a quick little tour of the training headquarters?
Yeah.
Here, we'll
check out where it's.
Check this out, Matthias.
Okay.
Working class
barbell.
Title, correct?
Working class barbell.
So, Matthias, we got eyeballs on the working class barbell headquarters.
Nice.
So here we got our deadlift platform. So this combo bench, the bench pops off. We've got deadlift platform, calibrated kilo plates. So we're pretty much set up for a meet if we wanted to do that.
Didn't you guys do a deadlift meet here once or something?
We do a full power meet actually out of the garage every May. So we've got the power rack here. My husband can weld.
That's cool.
He's really thinks of a lot, so he's made up a cable pulley system for us here.
Got the record board over here.
Record board.
Oh, shout out Joe Atef.
Joe Atef, yeah. He's making a comeback.
Excellent. I don't know if you guys can see this. Matthias, can you see that record board?
Yeah, I can see it.
Pretty stout numbers on there.
Yeah.
Brian with 612, 390, what? 1 or 4?
391 for his bench.
644 deadlift.
But then he's got like his gears. So then there's some like gym PRs with reps.
Right on.
So a couple different PRs there.
Pretty cool. I really think like this is the place. This is the way to train. I've got doing a couple workouts at Export lately. Fitness does not have this vibe.
Got a full dumbbell set up to 100. Then we got the set of 115s there as well.
You have to punch the feedback every time. That's a rule.
We have about 26 barbells.
Vertical leg press, I see.
Vertical leg press.
Oh, hell yeah, the barbell collection. I like it.
Nice.
Got the glute hamstring raise, which will pop down, and then we have all the cable attachments there.
Yes, me, this is such a superior glute ham raise to the traditional one itself. Yeah,
this one
actually back
like kill your quads.
I think in like 2002, I wrote an article about this exercise before you could even buy like a good hammerage like that.
Yeah. We got our monolift. That was really the one piece that we were finally missing.
What brand monolift is it?
This is
State of the art. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out State of the Art. Yeah, their equipment's pretty badass.
Yeah. Custom made right out of New York. So then we have the leg extension, flips down to a hamstring curl. We got some more bars. I mean, Kingbird bar, ladder bar. We've got the kabuki.
Oh, that's cool.
Kabuki.
Transformer bar. We
That
got
is
some
what's
more
up.
hanging off the ceiling. Got the bamboo
Football
buffalo
bar.
bar.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking cool.
We even have some like strongman tools. I mean, you can't quite see, but got all your bands. We've got the log. We have the circus dumbbell over there. Some bumper plates.
Yeah, it's a really badass setup. I love it.
Yeah, everything.
This room is like packed with stuff.
It's so cool,
Yes.
right?
Just a little
Quick pros for the audience. Let's see something. Kaboom!
A little cold, still cold, but
That's all right.
yeah.
That's
Then you
bad.
go outside. We had this combo rack made actually for the garage meet that we always do out of the house every year. So this is another state of the art.
They had a couple of pieces hiding over there.
Yep.
Oh,
Brian
and
made
a box
yoke.
bag.
Some farmer carries. Got a heavy tire. Sled.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Matthias, any commentary, questions? We good?
We covered so much, man. Can't
Thank
think
you
of
so much. Hey, thank you, Julie. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. It was
Kind of had to
awesome.
make a couple last minute adjustments, but it worked. So,
Yeah.
Rap Feed Radio, the Corey Miceli Show, Squat Life for No Life. Matthias, the Sexy Viking, Buxter Anderson. Peace.
Peace.